Good morning. Security and GDPR, securing the digital workplace. Hot topic, lots of press. A few months ago, I was asked to prepare a briefing for IDC, who were doing a survey around all the vendors around print and document security. And what became obvious as we were preparing that, we had a really strong story, but we were absolutely awful at telling it. We had very little collateral around and no material that our customer-facing staff could actually take forward. So we had to create a lot of new material to tell the story that we already had to actually help with IDC. One of the things that we then took away from that is we had to reuse that. We had to use that collateral to then start pushing new campaigns to raise awareness of security and Ricoh's capabilities both internally and externally. So I was pleased with Karen's request to come along here because this is part of one of the things I've been doing for the last few months, is actually preparing that content, and there's a lot of new material coming out. Last night we actually got the IDC MarketScape report, and it thankfully, or maybe as a result of good work, shows Ricoh in a leader quadrant of security. But their recommendation was we could be even better if we improved the awareness of security with our customers and ran some security-related campaigns. So they're actually pointing on our weakness, and our weakness is people don't understand just how good we are at security. Effectively, in security terms, Ricoh has been a sleeping giant, and it's time to wake that giant up. So I've been in IT and business solutions for around 35 years, and security can be a very technical and complex topic, but I'm not going to go on the technology. Security really is a business-related topic. It's about protecting a customer's and organization's business against all the increasing risks. So the topic and the theme of this presentation will all be around business-related. I hope at the end of it you will take away some key messages that you can have those conversations with your customer, and actually you can prove that Ricoh is a credible supplier in this area. So I'll talk about why security is important. I'll talk about our approach to security. I'll then go through a little bit about the customer's needs and help you to understand the pain that your customers are going through. I spent a lot of years as an IT manager and IT director, and security was a hot topic for me going back about 10 or 15 years. I'll talk about our security strategy, and then I'll explain a sales approach and mix in that a couple of case studies as well. So why is it important? Well, unless you don't read any newspapers or look at the BBC website, you will not have heard of all the news that's going around how organizations are being hit hard with cybersecurity, the WannaCry virus that actually destroyed businesses, they stopped their servers working. Many of our global accounts actually had major outages, which we had to help and put people on site to resolve this ransomware. And ransomware, according to Google, is here to stay. There are going to be more and more attacks. The NHS was hit in the first one, many global companies in the second one. But there's also hacking and information being disclosed on personal information. That I think most recent one was Equifax, which is probably going to be the biggest cyber hack anywhere in the world so far. But each one is getting bigger and more bold. The good news is, for us, and particularly our sales team, is organizations, our customers are recognizing that. So Quazirka did this survey, 95% of organizations recognize the importance of security. So if 95% of your customers think security is important, we must talk security to them. Even better news, 75% are increasing their spend on security, and Ricoh wants a big share of that. So good news all round for us. But GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations. As Ian said, if any of you are asked to explain it, we'll probably get a dozen or more answers. Just do a search on Google, 5 million hits on what GDPR is. Many of our competition are leading with GDPR campaigns and guaranteeing that they can make a customer compliant, doing GDPR compliance checklists. Computer Weekly at the top showing that print management is a blind spot in most government organizations. GDPR effectively to any organization in our sector is like the millennium bug. It's something that's coming, people are getting concerned about, and it is going to create a business demand and opportunity which we must take our share of. So that's why security is important. That's why it's important to our customers, and if it's important to our customers, it has to be important to us. So our approach to security, you all have heard about the 19th MTP and the global value proposition about empowering digital workplaces. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we get onto the R&D slide later on. But the important message to take away is everything that Ricoh does, security is there by design. Security underpins everything we do, whether it be to developing a new service or product, to bringing key security components into products like Streamline NX or into our MFPs that all add to a secure solution for a customer, to our services, and we have to focus on both the digital and physical security. You know, locking paper drawers on MFP to stop prescriptions being stolen is part of the physical security. Card authentication and encryption, that's part of the digital security we have to address. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to go through this slide because I'm going to introduce a lot of features and components around our security messaging. But I've tried to summarize it on one slide. And these are key takeaways that you need to remember and think about because these are little nuggets that you can actually use in conversation with your customers. So the first thing is our portfolio covers the entire digital workplace. We're not just that printer copier. We're not just the whiteboard people. We have a wide portfolio and security is in every part of it. We have a customer-driven innovation program. It's one of the things that IDC picked up on their MarketScape, that we do listen and act on what customers' concerns are, and we build them into our development and innovation programs. That is unique for us. And I've got a little bit more to say on that later. We have a Ricoh-only machine operating system on our MFPs, on our smart operations panel. That's really important because when people are writing viruses and attacking, they're trying to attack mainstream platforms. It's very difficult for somebody to write an attack for something that is specifically to a proprietary or a Ricoh-only operating system. A key part of our defense in depth. We have a consistent global service delivery organization. Many of it is delivered locally by the opcos, but the global MDS offering was launched in 2010. 7 years ago, we wanted a consistent approach to services. Within the GMDS offering was security management as a standard service offering for our MDS customers. 7 years ago, before all the news became so important, why security is important. We were advanced in that. IEEE 2600 certification, the accreditation for hard copy output devices. All our MFPs and printers are developed, designed to that standard, and then tested and certified to that standard. But that's not all, because everybody does that. We were actually one of the organizations lobbying for that standard. We wanted the whole print industry to improve the security, and therefore we were one of the authors of that standard, and we continue to lobby for further improvements in the areas where we're active, because we want everybody to come up to the standard where Ricoh is, because then we believe we have an edge to be ahead of them. And security is part of our Ricoh's DNA. It is part of everything we do, and it's in every product and service by design. So our approach to security comes out on the left-hand side, the acronym CIA, not Central Intelligence Agency, but confidentiality, integrity, and availability. If anybody's ever taken the time to read the many security standards and proposals around the world, actually CIA comes in all of them. But confidentiality is about restricting access to information to the people who need access to it. So that could be very simple of a card authentication or an MFP, or entering a PIN code and a lock print when you send a file that only you can release it. Maintaining the confidentiality. Integrity is making sure that people cannot change or alter that information. They can't change a scanned file for asking for 30 to make it 3,000 units, or what's held in the server or the document management system. And the final one is around availability. And availability is becoming more and more key as we're going to a mobile, diverse workforce, but it also includes things like disaster recovery. What happens if the customer's building suffers a fire or a flood, or they can't get to the building? Accessing that information from anywhere, wherever, whenever by the authorized people is still part of our security approach. I said security is part of our DNA, and I will say that several more times because it's one of the buzzwords you need to take away. It's every product and service we do, from the MFPs, through the services like MDS, through the interactive whiteboards, visual communication. Security is built by design into every product and service Ricoh takes to market. So taking a time to think about the customer and the customer's needs. These are fairly constant needs, but the issue and the trends on the top there, the data volumes are increasing. The risks are increasing. The amount of people trying to get to or stop people getting to or changing that data is increasing. You saw all the clippings from the news sites. This is an ever-increasing threat and risk for our customers. But for an IT manager or an MD of a small company, they're worried about a number of things. They're worried about data loss or theft. Data loss by theft from their competitors, or data loss by somebody picking up a file on the train and publishing it. The whole WikiLeaks type article. Probably that's quite high profile, but a small business whose pricing file is shared can actually find themselves disadvantaged by their competition. Data corruption and alteration, changing information they've got there, which could affect loss of credibility or even failure in some of their customer engagements. Data availability, making sure the information is available not only from a disaster, but wherever people are working. We're now into the new ways of working, the mobile, increasing use of mobile and tablet devices. That data's got to be available wherever and whenever it's needed in a secure way. What to comply with? There are tens of thousands of different regulations that customers may have to comply with. Many of them are industry-specific, some of them are country-specific. We can never be an expert on every single regulation. Our customers have to work that out. But many of them, to comply with them, when it comes to documents, you have to make sure you maintain confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the documents and the information. So by taking our stance looking at those three areas means we can help most customers comply with just about any regulation they have to do. And the big challenge is, how do you prove compliance? How does the customer prove compliance? And they can do that with things like audit trails and secure access controls and many of the components we have in our toolbox that can be of value to a customer in their whole compliance journey. And compliance is about process, system, and people. And we have to address all three of those as we go through. So GDPR. The key date on there, May 25th, 2018. That's when everybody has to be compliant. Realistically, maybe 34 to 40% of organizations will be compliant by that time. And post that, there will be a rush for people to try and get compliant. A couple of key facts from this, and this is a huge piece of legislation, but the things to remember for all of us is it applies to all organizations that are headquartered in Europe, but all organizations that process information and work through Europe. So it does include Ricoh Company Limited in Japan and American companies who are processing personal information for customers in Europe. So effectively, it affects everybody worldwide. The other big issue that's taken a lot of the press is these things about the penalties. Up to 20 million euros or 4% of global revenue as penalties if you fail to comply or you have a breach from personal privacy type information through GDPR. That is why it is such a hot topic for all organizations. So what? So this one slide hopefully will help most for all the sales to think, so what does it mean to our customers, so what does it mean to us? So hell of a lot of press, 5 million hits on Google, as I showed earlier on. GDPR really focuses on the concept of privacy by design. And that includes the right to be forgotten. It includes things like cookies, so you're being monitored on the internet. You'll see different messages coming up where you've got to explicitly grant consent to be tracked, and you have the right for that information to be forgotten. It requires, and the key message for us to think about, adequate security according to the risk. Security, so the linking GDPR and security come nicely together. The bottom message, unstructured data. Now, many of you will have heard the statement that 85% of a customer's information is unstructured. It's in filing cabinets, it's in paper. We have played on that stat that came from Gartner about 10 years ago for years to try and sell scanning solutions. But that's the biggest problem when it comes to GDPR. How do you control this unstructured data? So really helping with GDPR compliance is a sweet spot for Ricoh. It is part of that paper to digital journey. So Gartner recommending that organizations need to do 3 things. They need to minimize the data, capturing the information that they need, only as long as they need. Don't ask for more personal information. Don't have it in their systems. That's very much a customer thing to do. The bottom 2 are things we can help with. The first one is they have to re-engineer their business processes and actually streamline their processes, stop capturing information they don't need, and improve the security to make sure they're providing adequate security according to the risk. So what does this all mean to Ricoh? Well, the first thing is we cannot guarantee full GDPR compliance, and you must be very careful never to say that. The only organization we can guarantee compliance is Ricoh, because as the data owner or the data processor, we are responsible for that. Customers are responsible as the data owner for their compliance. But we have a lot of things we can help a customer with. So we can help with our services offerings to re-engineer document processes, to help them streamline and take away unnecessary personal information. We can actually help improve with security optimization consultancy. We can help them assess their current security and make recommendations to improve their security. Come back onto that later. And we will be performing the role of data processor, where as part of our business process services, or maybe some of our IT services, we will be looking after customers' data in our data centers, in our cloud, where we are processing customers' data. We have to guarantee our compliance when we're engaged like that. And the liabilities as such have got to be built into our contract. But we have a trusted platform components. We have an architecture of security offerings that all add up to helping delivering that adequate security. So the first slide I showed the problems that have been around for a long time, but there are also increasing things. And so this all comes with the volume. I put down own staff and temporary staff. The biggest risk to security from any organization is their employees. The majority of security breaches are accidental by individuals who leave a document on the train, who write their password down on their laptop before they lose their laptop in the bar on a Friday night and somebody has full access to the VPN and they don't tell their organization until the Tuesday morning when they built up courage to come in and say, I've had my laptop stolen. Bring your own device. The amount of organizations are allowing people to use their own mobile phones and own tablets to access information. Very few organizations doing that are building in mobile data management frameworks to actually wipe customer data, company data, when that employee leaves the company. Ricoh is doing that, and IT services can offer that as an offering. New ways of working. Ricoh UK, you've been doing this a long time, the hot desking, you don't go to an office to work, work is wherever you are. But that actually increases new risks. Using public Wi-Fi, sitting in a hotel or a Starbucks or a McDonald's doing your emails on an unsecured network is actually a big security risk. But again, our IT services can help with that. Mergers and acquisitions, merging 2 companies together. One might be really good at security, one might be really bad. The effect is they all reduce in their effectiveness. So that is a big risk area for customers, and customers need to look very seriously about maintaining adequate security during that merger and acquisition. Again, something that Ricoh can help with. And the backdoor vulnerabilities. Another buzzword that many of you have heard is about the Internet of Things. Devices that are connected to the internet, might be your fridge or lights, things, your hi-fi, your TV, that actually can provide a backdoor via the internet into your company network. One of the things Ricoh is very focused on is making sure any devices we connect to the internet do not become that vulnerability, that weak point into a customer's environment. And that is set to increase. So as an IT manager or an MD at a small company, security is something I guarantee will be making them worry, probably making them lose sleep, particularly an IT manager who's had people losing laptops with their passwords written on top of them. They really have a problem. So what's our strategy? This slide is around our print, but we have a similar approach to all of our products. But I want to take it down to the central level, this layered approach. So device security. At the MFP, I talked about IEEE or ISO 26000 certification. So we certify all our devices to 26000.2 because that is the standard that most global major accounts want. It covers the design, how we manufacture it, and through penetration testing, our devices work. The Ricoh only operating system is a unique part of our security mechanism. But we also have things like hard disk encryption and disk overwrite security in our devices as options. About 9 to 10 years ago, we offered disk overwrite security as an option. Most of the industry said, and customers, we don't really need that. Now it's a standard because everybody realizes, and they've seen the press of second-hand MFPs being used to access information that was from years earlier. So disk overwrite security is now standard, but we were one of the leaders to try and get that out as a standard. Firmware updates. We control the way our machines are configured through controlling the firmware update mechanism, making sure that people can't make unauthorized changes that weaken the security of our devices. Coming out from that, the Smart Operations Panel, this Android-like tablet. Many people say it's Android. It's Android-like because it was based on Android, but we've adapted it. We've removed a lot of the features and functionalities to make it a Ricoh-only operating system. Many of the standard vulnerabilities on Android are not in our Smart Operations Panel. And our Smart Operations Panel will go through the 2600 certification as well. We have no ability to get to the root, the kernel, the whole operating system is completely different to a standard Android device. Above that, the next layer is the embedded applications, where we run our Smart SDK, where people put applications on our devices, things like EquiTrack, Safecom, Streamline X, even Objective Loon sit on there, but they have to submit all their code to a Ricoh test center, including one of my test centers in Dusseldorf, where those applications are tested to make sure they're compatible with our devices and then are certified and will only run when they are digitally signed. We don't let third parties create applications that can be downloaded onto our platform. You have a mobile phone, you go onto Google Play or the App Store, download, and it's at your risk. That cannot happen with a Smart Operations device because we control what runs on our devices. But they're essential part because they will bring additional security tools like card readers and maybe biometrics type assessments that are not built into the machine. Above that, we have the network. Now, sometimes we're responsible for network security because we provide IT services. But more often than not, we have to rely on the customer's network or their customer's IT vendor and the security of their firewalls and everything else. But we also have security offerings here. And one of the cases I'll talk about is Siemens, where they were concerned about the man-in-the-middle attack. Somebody in their organization capturing print files and actually extracting the information. They wanted end-to-end encryption from our MFP to the server and from the server to the MFP. That end-to-end encryption is part of our security offering around the network. Coming out for that, we're looking at server security. Again, this is more an IT services play, so Ricoh might be doing the IT security, but we also have capabilities where we can encrypt the data we're holding on a server, even if it's managed by third parties. And we will have password control and segregation of duties to make sure not one person has got all the power to extract and abuse the information there. And final is around services, a whole range of services, both in consultancy services you can sell and things that we do internally to keep our business running that wraps around to this defense in depth through this layered approach. So one of our key figures is we actually do listen to customers, and we bring customers and involve customers in our innovation and development programs. So we do this in three different levels. At the bottom, we've got our tactical and operational, so customer satisfaction service, win-loss reviews. We're constantly capturing the voice of the customer to understand what we're doing well, what we're doing badly, where we need to improve. And that gets fed into our development teams. At the top end, we've got the customer advisory board, which is around 15 to 20 C-level people for organizations like Bayer and Siemens and Vodafone and Shell, where their board members come together with Ricoh 3 or 4 times a year to review Ricoh's business strategy, their business strategy, and really talking at a high level what these organizations need. It's facilitated through Oxford University and is a real insight into the boardroom to make sure we're positioning ourselves to be that trusted supplier. The middle layer is where we do most of our work around security, which is where we have the Technology Advisory Conference and user groups and our IDP program. So the Technology Advisory Conference, which we run annually, we have around 40 to 50 IT director type people that come in. We share things we're thinking about launching, things that we're working on 3 to 5 years, and even our R&D concepts. We need customer feedback. Security is a constant. Interestingly, Streamline X came out of this event in 2009, and since then, every year we've presented it back because this is really driven on what the customers are looking for. But customers have the ability to kill or accelerate our development ideas to make sure that what we deliver is absolutely focused on our customers' needs. This is unique, and it's one of the things that IDC picked up as being one of our strengths. So people want to know what our security roadmap is. We don't maintain security as a single business topic. We don't have a single line of business around security. The simple reason security is in our DNA and it's part of every product and service. And yeah, I've repeated that one again. But the roadmap constantly changes. We have new threats coming in. We have new legislation coming in. So although we can plan short, mid, and long term, we have to be prepared to change. You know, the WannaCry virus, the ransomware, that might have needed us to change our development plans, or we accelerate something and bring something new to market. So unashamedly, our security pipeline is flexible and will change depending on what the customer's needs are. So I talked before about the empowering digital workplaces. This is the R&D strategy. So I want to take a little bit of time to explain what that means, because it's just 3 words. So at the top is what the vision of a digital workplace is. So you have the traditional office in the middle, you have the workplace, you know, different buildings around there, branches, people going about their daily job using electronic digital information to process the information they need to do their job. But then it links into society. It's using things like WhatsApp and other social media built into a business operation. So that's just the way the world's going. So Ricoh's offering from that, we focus R&D really around capturing data, using our endpoint devices from theta cameras to 3D cameras or stereoscope cameras that can actually measure depth of roads and actually capture data which then can be delivered into our cloud or through our edge computing options to actually go into this area around analytics, which is a big part of Ricoh's R&D. It's about artificial intelligence. It's about making business decisions based on the data we capture. And then once we've done that, we create insight, which we present back out to our customers who can then visualize that information, because it's no longer data, it's insight, it's knowledge. And visualize it again in our end devices like the interactive whiteboard or the Ricoh smart glasses, and actually make use of that. Security is absolutely key in all parts of this, but even more so around this side, because once you've taken data and put business logic to it and turn it insight, that is even more valuable to our customers and more valuable for them to protect from their competition. So security is part of every R&D project that we do. So looking at our delivery strategy and capabilities. So we split this down into 4 areas, and the first one is fairly easy to understand. It's about controlling access to information, confidentiality and integrity, making sure that only people that are authorized to access the information can do that. It comes back down to simple solutions like Streamline X with card authentication. Only you can see your print queue. Only you can get into certain workflows. It could be as simple as an enhanced lock print, where adding a PIN code into a print file makes sure that only that person that sent that print can print that file. And then how we use firmware updates and the Ricoh-only operating system protect our platform from malware and things that are hitting everybody else around the world. Preservation is about confirming and protecting that confidential integrity and availability. It includes things like data encryption. And again, thinking about GDPR, security has got to be appropriate to the risk. So if theft of data in transit is key, encryption is absolutely critical. Making sure that what we deliver is authorized, it's certified, it's tested. The IEEE 2600 certification, the Trusted Platform Module components. But one of the biggest challenges for customers is this piece. It's about balancing the needs for security to the needs for access. The best way to improve security is lock it up, don't let anybody get to it, but actually a business can't work if everything is underground in a bunker with no external links. So the compromise is making sure that the security measure is appropriate to the risk. Destruction. So in destruction, you'll think about things like disk overwrite security as a temporary measure. So when information is no longer needed, it's being processed, it will be wiped off with 1s and 0s. That information no longer exists. But also at end of life, and having the whole range of services that when MFP is taken out, we can securely wipe the disk, we can securely wipe the memory, so there's no information held in those devices. And if the customer really wants to pay the extra, we'll sell them back the hard disk and deliver that as part of the end-of-life services. All of those 3 things are supported and wrapped around with a services layer, where including things like the security optimization, the MDS offerings, ITIL, which is what our service management policy, the ITIL service security management is part of that sort of infrastructure and offering, and right the way down to our security incident response team. So going back to MDS, launched in 2010, and hopefully many of you will recognize the adaptive model, which actually it was a way of approaching a customer's managed document services, and you're starting off by understanding, and then you want to improve, transform, govern, and optimize. Now, this chart shows the MDS menu. Number 19 on that menu was security management. And back in 2010, that was defined as ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of customers' communication and sensitive and critical information. Hopefully that proves the comment I made earlier on that CIA is built into everything we do. So this material is around, it's been around for a long time. Go and read it again, because it is very relevant in today's world. So security optimization approach, this is a whole set of tools and processes that consultants can do. You can sell this as a service to your customers. They will go in and assess the customer's current environment and produce this radar chart to show their strengths and their weaknesses. And then going through the improve and transform, put those improvements in place to come up with a much improved rating. Your professional service team can do this sort of work. And positioning ourselves as that trusted advisor is a really important thing for Ricoh. All the way down to then governing and helping make sure you repeat this exercise and making sure you address every new need. and then the end-of-life services. When we end a contract, we make sure that we don't leave a digital footprint that makes the customer vulnerable. So new incidents are coming out all the time. So there is an international organization called CSIRT. It's the Computer Security Incident Response Team. Ricoh subscribes and is part of the JP Cert. That's because we're headquartered in Japan and many of our developers there. What happens is when a new vulnerability is seen, it's published, it's documented, the international organization gets it and publishes it out. Manufacturers like Ricoh get hold of that. The one we looked at earlier on this week was around Wi-Fi encryption, and a vulnerability using public Wi-Fi could have a problem with certain devices. We have to assess every one of them. It's run by our QA department, and they assess whether this is relevant for Ricoh, whether that vulnerability exists. If it does, what do we need to do to close that and issue an update or a fix to remove that issue? They have the ability and the power to reprioritize development to make sure we fix critical risks, even if that means delaying product launch. So I want to share with you two case studies about where security was absolutely key for us. The first one is a company called Siemens. Siemens is a global major account for us. They've got 350,000 employees, and currently, I believe, Ricoh UK are actually deploying one of the 90 countries that we're going out, 30 countries we're going out with Siemens. So headquartered in Germany. Back in 2013, they made it known they were issuing an RFP where they'd looked at every vendor and defined what they thought was best in class. The truth is, nobody could comply with what they were looking for in terms of serverless and security. We had to do rapid development. We did that in collaboration with Siemens. We involved them, since Siemens Southwest Europe, to develop our Streamline X product to make sure we became the only organization that fully met their security needs. We are still the only organization that fully meets their security needs. That includes Streamline X as a standard, but we have this smart card, which is an ID card with like a chip and pin on your credit card. That's where the personal encryption key of any employee sits. That card goes into their laptop when they send a print file. It's encrypted with that. It's only decrypted when that card is slotted into the card reader at the MFP. Man-in-the-middle attack is what they're looking. They also wanted to do that for scanning. This will become standard in Streamline X 3. We also needed to deliver a serverless environment. We delivered a savings of about €2.5 million for removing print servers from the Siemens environment in Southwest Europe, which was 7 countries. The good news was we weren't the IT service vendor, ITOS was, so they lost money, we gained a big win. I think Rob's going to talk about that when you do the Streamline X session later on. The other case study is Mitsubishi Electric. And they had 2 requirements. So this was actually won by Ricoh Germany. They were coming out for MPS, 100 MFPs, and Follow Me Print with some security built into it. But they also needed whiteboards, and they were very concerned about security of information left on flip charts in their whiteboards. They wanted whiteboard infrastructure to have card authentication, and they wanted to send the output from their whiteboards into a secure Follow Me Print queue. Our competition for the whiteboards was Microsoft. They don't have card authentication or Follow Me Print. Canon didn't have whiteboards. Ricoh did have both, and we still are the only organization with both. So linking interactive whiteboards with Streamline X to provide that Follow Me Print is a unique that really we need to make a lot more noise about and actually get some more sales of whiteboards and MFPs side by side. Securing the whole digital workplace. So one of the things we're doing since the IDC message was providing a lot of new collateral and tools, and Karen's going to share with you where a lot of this stuff is, and actually some of the stuff hasn't been published yet. We're recording videos of sales tools and messages last Friday, which will then be issued in piecemeal out by the corporate marketing team. But I said we were the sleeping giant. It's time to wake the sleeping giant around security and GDPR. We have a very strong message. That's my holiday pick from Alaska, by the way, but anyway. The techniques. The first one, I put it down as stage 0, prepare. You have to study. This is a huge topic, but don't think about the technology, think about the business impact. There is a lot of collateral already available in Ricoh, but please take the time to study it. Just as Ian said before, recognize the corner of a machine. Actually, you need to recognize the business issues and concerns for your customer. Then you can have a knowledgeable conversation. And then go through the techniques, which again, has built out into some of the sales guides we've got there. Ask what their concern, what are they losing sleep over? Where is their biggest concern? Which processes, which standards they have to comply with? How are they going to be compliant with GDPR? Will they be there by May 2018? How can we help? Then going on to informing with insight, saying, you know, Ricoh's strong on security. We've been doing this for many years. Security is part of our DNA. We focus on confidentiality, integrity, availability. All those sort of messages to make sure you're getting the credibility into your message. And then introduce our solution. Or, if necessary, introduce a PS specialist, get somebody else in there to do it. But if you're taking that approach and you study these materials that are being posted, you should be much better prepared for that conversation. Because I can guarantee, having been an IT manager, customers get sick of people promising to help them and talk product only. They want people to understand and listen to their problems and then empathize and show how we can help. Customers are looking for solutions. So to wrap up, so we are expanding our compliance assessment offerings. Compliance is really important. It's a big hook for a customer. They're worried about the penalties. 4% of their revenues, 20 million euros from GDPR. This is the millennium bug opportunity for all of us to try and leverage and help a customer to avoid some of those penalties and at the same time investing with us in the solution. Information security is in all of our products by design, and we are going to continue to focus on developing new standards and pushing the boundaries and to be an industry leader in document and print security. But the threat is changing all the time, and we have to constantly be ready for the next threat, whatever that be. So this is very much repetition, but I'm trying to get these points over and things you can think. Our portfolio covers the entire digital workplace. The whiteboards, the projectors, the Watson integration, the MFPs, the services, the business process outsourcing. It's the entire workspace. That's why our strapline, our vision, is around empowering the digital workplace. Our Ricoh-only operating system is a key first step in a multi-layered defense policy. Global customer-driven innovation program is unique to Ricoh. It guarantees that what we're developing and launching are what the customers need. Consistent service and support, and we're going to continue to drive offerings, but security will continue to be the heart of all our offerings for a long time in the future. Thank you.
Ricoh.